Joining us for the discussion, Shannon. Shannon's up there in the corner. We got Jessica above me. Are you dressed as, who are you supposed to be?
Casablanca. I came to Casablanca.
Yeah.
Of course, Allison's back with us, even though she exploded. Nathan and Nick. And Rob Whiteside down below wearing his 3D glasses. Probably doesn't move all the way to the end of the aisle either. So, we are discussing, so the way the top 7 works, we have 7 panelists. Each panelist picks their favorite, in most cases, their favorite of something. Of course, it's first come, first serve, so we asked earlier in the week. I knew that was going to you knocked down with the skeleton earlier, now I did it. So the way this works is it's first come, first serve, so throughout the week we'll ask the panelists, like, which one do you want? And they pick, but then things are gone, obviously, after one person picks them. So that's what happens. Everybody picks one. We have 7, and then we rank the 7 to try to decide what is the absolute best. The topic this evening is scenes in the great movie ride. So we want to try and decide what was the best scene in the attraction. So we'll start with the lady. Shannon, why don't you start us off? What do you think was the best scene in the great movie ride?
Okay, so obviously there's a lot of great scenes, but the first thing that popped into my head that I went with is the end, the final movie montage at the end, because that's where I always get like a little emotional, just feel my heart like, yes, movies.
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 It's great.
I love the movie.
Obviously, not the TCM version, the other version. I mean, the original one was like updated with newer clips and stuff, but generally that one. The editing's just amazing. The way that it starts with the older movies and it's the like smaller frame and then it pops up with Oklahoma and it gets big. When Robin Williams says "Good Morning Vietnam," and then you just know it's just gonna the Star Wars music's gonna start, and then it's like, yep.
Then you specifically like the old one better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty
I didn't like the
on the
TCM one, but I think that was just bias.
Yeah, but I think, here's the thing, like, I don't like some of the music choices in the TCM one. Like, I don't like Monsters, Inc. I think it feels out of place.
Yeah.
But I like the end better. I think the Hollywood CGI flying thing got old. And I really like the big epic music and all, like, the little shots of the movies flying by. And
that was nice. But I like the original better.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the original, and I almost picked that. I really did. And it was between what I picked and that, because it gives me chills. Like I love that ending collage. It's a good culmination of the whole ride I was just on.
Yeah, I watched it today and it put a big smile on my face. Yeah.
No.
Pretty great. Jessica.
Hello.
Hello.
So my pick obviously is
You're very low as usual.
It is. Is this better?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
It's a little
I'm
better.
just gonna ram it up all the way.
Just
How
yell.
about this? MGM would never hire me at this rate, honestly. So I chose Casablanca. It isn't, compared to like maybe Wizard of Oz, even the finale montage, it's not that big of a scene, but overall I had to pick it because it's one of my favorite movies, if not one of my, like, the favorite movie. I'm actually really lucky because the first time I ever saw Casablanca as a whole, it was actually on the big screen. It was a local movie theater here in Miami. It's actually headed by Gloria Stefan's son, but I got to see it for the first time in the big screen.
Was there a big pineapple at the movie theater?
No, but they had a figment and an orange bird. They're really big, like, old school Disney fans. It was great.
Was Emilio Estevez there?
But it was an actual, like, real reproduction, and, like, you got to see it on the big screen. It was so cool. And the only other times I'd seen it was clips on, like, maybe, like, movie countdowns or, again, on the Great Movie Ride. and it's just one of the greatest film noirs slash like German expressionist film. Let me take it over to the film professor. Just it's just one
It
of
is
the
a
best, like
perfectly structured movie. Yeah. It's true.
So again, I love that the scene, while small, while quiet, it's not flashy like the movie, but it still has elements from the movie that. Hello, Gordo.
Are we talking about Casablanca?
We're talking about black and white films.
Yeah.
The lighting in the movie in Casablanca, if you notice, they use a lot of lighting. There's like it's big in film noir, but they use it a lot there. Like if you ever notice that Rick is like half light, half dark because he's always like in the middle. Yeah. They use a lot of these lighting effects.
Like
in
Gordo,
that
half
scene.
white, half dark. Yeah.
Like they use a lot of. This is ridiculous. They use a lot of that in that scene. My only gripe with the scene, Ingrid Bergman doesn't have her scenes. You don't get to hear Elsa talk, and she has lines in that scene. But it's just Humphrey Bogart. I love Humphrey Bogart.
She does, but he has the lines that everyone remembers.
He's got the monologue, yeah.
But
yeah,
right.
You know, Fig. I do love that scene. I've said this story before, and I think this is the perfect. This is probably the perfect time to re-say the story. But I was writing Great Movie Ride and sort of had to determine, it was my last time I was going to be there, the week it was closing, and I had to sort of determine when I was going to stop. And we got to Casablanca, and it just the ride stopped. So it ran through Humphrey Bogart's monologue 3 times. And I said, that's a sign. I'm going to leave. This is my last one. So my last trip ever was I got to listen to Humphrey Bogart do the entire monologue 3 times. And that was just such a little blessing. Because that is it's a perfectly lit scene too. Like it doesn't feel like it's in color, even though like they're clearly as animatronics still like flesh toned, but it's really well
putting the scrim over to be like the fog, and it's so you're not in the scene, but the way it's staged to the side, I just think it's really pretty.
Once I noticed that, I was a bit older when I noticed that there was a scrim there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because in the actual movie, if you ever notice like how Ingrid Bergman looks fabulous all the time, she has like the super porcelain skin, it's that they actually put a gauze over the camera, and especially in scenes for her to make her give her like this lustrous look.
Yeah.
They even like place lights in specific places to like have her eyes give like a specific glimmer. It's just all these like, and again, this kind of fascination wouldn't have started without being exposed to these things in the ride, which is why the ride means so much to me. I was watching like an old like promo film, and it was like you have Frank Wells like, oh, when they get to the Casablanca scene, Kleenex is gonna make $1 million, and it's a subtle scene, but it's very emotional. And then of course there's all like the like weird park history stuff about how they had to cut the plane in half, and like half of it went to the Jungle Cruise.
Yeah.
And
for those who don't know, the back half of the plane is the one at Magic Kingdom's Jungle Cruise. That wasn't always there. That was added when they acquired the plane, and they're like, what are you doing with the back half? Yeah.
I've heard so many conflicting things that I still am not sure about. There's always like the rumor about like it being the actual plane, but it wasn't.
That was what you got to remember. There was no internet. And so if a cast member told you something, like people just believed it. And so once the internet came about, and you could like cross-check with people, then plenty of people who worked on the attraction came out and said, no, we bought that. It's a random plane. We cut the back off, and then we just threw the back in the Jungle Cruise. It's not the real plane. We wouldn't cut the real plane in half.
The actual plane was 2D. It was just a wooden plank, but they actually hired little people to stand in front to give the forced perspective of it being an actual plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in my imagination, they could have redone the Great Movie Ride as just the Great Casablanca Ride, because there's so many good scenes, like the scene in the bar.
Yeah, but what makes the Great Movie Ride great is I think it had something for everybody. There was something that connected to everybody. So if you didn't like one scene, you probably liked the next one.
The Brown Derby could have been Rick's, and I'd have been completely happy. So.
Oh my my god, I'd never thought of that. Just make it Rick's Cafe.
As long as they have Cobb salad.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
They just come out and like say.
Here's to you, Cobb.
My favorite thing is, and I'm sure this will come up a lot, but we had the party and the ride where we got to walk through. When I watched Casablanca the first time, I'm pretty sure I watched it with both of my parents on TCM, and so it was fun. I got a picture with them with the scene, like just standing there, which I thought was cool.
Oh. Yeah, so that's my top pick.
Who in here was at the event? I don't know who. I don't remember who all. Nick, were you there? Rob was there.
For my time.
Rob, this was before you worked here, though, right? You're muted.
It was. I was just stalking you at that point.
Oh, cool.
Same.
You know what? One thing.
I almost attended that. I remember I was on my lunch break and I was like, I'll buy the tickets after I'm done with my shift. I'm not gonna. My lunch break was over and I'm like, oh, it can't sell out that quickly. It's such a niche thing. I came home that night. I went and pulled it up on my phone, and the event was sold out.
Yeah, I was freaking out. I was like, I'm gonna buy these tickets and then I'll worry later if I can go. Like I didn't know yet if I could go. I just had to have those tickets. So one thing, Tom, you were talking about like the internet and now that we can like cross-check things. One of the things that I remember hearing at the time was about Ingrid Bergman's family didn't allow for her voice to be used in that. Do we know if that was correct?
Not
there.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, like so they wouldn't give permission. That's what I heard is why she doesn't talk is because her family would not give permission.
It's totally possible.
Yeah, her likeness, that they allowed her likeness, but not her voice in the thing.
That's weird.
That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, they had all sorts of problems licensing all sorts of people. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Just as a last little note, if you want to watch Casablanca again or you have never seen it, it is coming up on TCM on May 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. This is now the Coreless Classics channel.
Well, I was going to say, Jessica just did a great piece the other day. Would have come out yesterday. Apparently, a bunch of the movies from the attraction are going to be on TCM in the next month or so. And so Jessica actually just went through the schedule until June and listed all these movies because I think it's important. And I know you talked to me, you told me, oh, it took me 4 or 5 hours or whatever it took you to put the post together. And you're like, oh, only a couple thousand people are going to read this. And my thought was, what the Great Movie Ride did for me was when I decided I was going to watch all those movies, I think it changed me as a person. I think having seen all those movies and taking in TCM, and I think I'm a very different person after that than I was before. You know, as a kid, I loved Epcot, and that was my park, and then my whole personality, I think, changed. I think I fell in love with the golden age of Hollywood and the lore and the history, and I'm just a very different person on the other side of that, I think. So,
there's a comment that says that movie and Epcot are why I went to Morocco from Disney Dassy. That's so cool, you know.
Why Epcot Center was edutainment, Hollywood Studios was the same. It was just focused. It was focused on art form. It was focused on dance and television and music and movies. So it was like an Epcot, but it was focused on entertainment.
The arts. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Allison, what scene are you taking?
So my favorite was already actually taken. So one of my other favorites was I know that I'm sorry, Team Bandit, but the gangster scene actually is one of my favorites. I really like any. I'm so sorry, but I really do like the gangster scene. I really like anything where Disney has live actors. I always really appreciate it when they put actors, and I think it really enhances the attraction. It makes it very different from a lot of other attractions that they have. And the tagline is that it puts you right into the movie. And it does, but then when you have the actor physically coming out and being inside your ride vehicle, that's also the movie coming like to you. So you're part of the movie, and now the movie's also part of your experience at the same time. So I really like how they do that. And I am a little bit more partial to the gangster scene for two reasons. One is because I, for some reason, would almost always have the gangster scene with the live actor. I almost never got the cowboy scene. And then the other thing is because I'm from New York, it was just kind of fun to have people kind of have fakey New York accents taking over the ride vehicle and be like, "What is this, Jersey?"
I lived in the gangster scene, and so that wasn't my favorite because I just felt like I was home. It's like same with New York Street. It's like I don't want to go to New York Street. Like I live there.
What is this, Jersey?
I just thought it was really funny, and like me and my family would just start laughing at it. And then I always loved it when the gangster would like, what are you looking at? Like to the kid that was in like the first row, and it would always kind of intimidate the kid if they've never done it before, and they're like, "Oh my god, what's going on here?" Yeah. So I do like the gangster scene a lot.
They ran the gangster scene more than the cowboy scene because if they only ran one car, it would do the gangster scene. So it was actually just
no, it was actually a money thing. They could have done it the other way. After 9/11, they didn't want to spend the money on the gasoline for the fire.
Sure.
So that was the reason that was made. It was like, well, run the cheaper one if you can. Yeah.
And then the cast members who worked the ride, it was you worked your way up from like regular host to gangster and then to cowboy. So
I'm guessing also because of the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to make sure they can trust you before you're going to be near a place that sets on fire.
Well, in both of them, you had to go through gun training.
Yeah.
Because it was an actual gun.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
And they would never, they also never would point the gun at any living individual, right? They would only point it at the air at an animatronic. Is that right? They had to
because it had blanks in it.
They talked about that. I think Brian Collins talked about that, the first Stage 89 presentation that aired this week. He talked all about like writing the script and teaching them how to not point the gun at people and all that kind of stuff. And then what's funny is the second presentation, the Mulder and the Mulder one, they talked about, because those are the guys who built the guns, because no one had ever done these guns that, like, prop guns existed, but they only were made to fire once a day, if not twice, however many times you're going to shoot the scene. But they had to develop these guns that would fire all day because you're doing the shows over and over and over. And so they had to build all these real guns to not be real guns, but to make sound and do all the things they did, which is really fascinating. Yeah. Rob. Yep, go ahead.
Yes, Tom.
What's up?
So, I don't know if this was the scene that Allison had wanted first, but I chose the cowboy scene. So, to me, it was. Well,
I like the finale. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
And my thinking was not. I mean, I live in North Carolina. It was not because they all talked funny. That was not the reason for the cowboy scene. My dad was a huge cowboy fan. I loved, cowboy movies growing up. But to me, the cool part about this was when I was a kid going to the parks, we always got the gangster scene. And at some point, we got the cowboy scene, and I realized that there was a difference. And it was cool to me to figure that out. To your point earlier, like, there wasn't an internet to go look this stuff up. Yeah. You just had to figure it out. And you figure out which queue to go into to get the cowboy scene. And I was like the man. I was like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to go and we're going to get on the cowboy scene this time. So I was really excited about being able to get on that one. And also, it was a lot more immersion. I mean, the fire in there, as you mentioned, and I'm pretty sure it was dynamite, not gasoline, right, Tom? It wasn't dynamite. So when they had all these, when you would ride through the thing, you could actually take in a lot of the details too, because like the alien scene was dark, the gangster scene was dark. This one actually had some good lighting that you could see everything. The animatronics for Clint Eastwood and John Wayne were great. Again, I don't know that I could confirm this, but the rumor was that the belt buckle on John Wayne was actually John Wayne's belt buckle. So there was a lot of neat nostalgia about that. And then like the animatronic snake, so cool, that one. And then when the cowboy refers back to him later and says, you know, like, why'd it have to be snakes? And I mean, that was a neat thing to me, that entire thing. But I think the coolest part was that it was a little more rare, that you didn't always get it. I feel like, you know, kind of like Shannon talked about, I do think even though they may have chosen it because of 9/11, when they scaled back, they would always use the back car if they didn't want to go to capacity, and back car was always Gangster. So I think I got probably too much of the Gangster. I was never into gangster films, and so the cowboy scene to me is the coolest scene. Like Casablanca is great because, you know, it's very true and very cool, but it's very brief. You know, the same thing with Fantasia and some of these others, and I'm not a huge Wizard of Oz fan. So this one to me is like the best scene in the thing. And that's not saying that I don't love them all, but this was my favorite.
Well, I mean, the amalgamation scenes, I think, hit a lot of things for a lot of people. So if you love Westerns or you love gangster movies, I mean, those all represent more than one. And those are the only scenes it did. So, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, I see. So the weird thing was the last ride ever ended up being Cowboy, and I felt kind of weird about it because we always got Gangster. The Gangster felt homey after so many times.
Just like home.
So we got that at the end, and so I didn't get to like shoot the red light and all that. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, but that was, I mean, it was the last ride ever.
No more red light.
Not take the last ride.
I like that part.
Nathan. The film professor by trade.
Well, you know, due to that, of course, my thoughts are double points. So for me, there's a lot. It's really hard to pick a favorite, but I really loved the alien scene, and I really loved it for the same reason that I loved it in the pre-show, the trailer. Because everything else is sort of like a doop dop doop dee doop doop doop, and even Searchers is sort of like la 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 da 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 da, like Western, and then it's just like, hi, now I'm going to scare your kids. What's up? Like that's
I mean, they
what
definitely
the
had a lot of
trailer
choices
would
for
do.
horror, but they picked Alien.
Yeah, and it represents an entire genre. Like it like. A lot of these areas sort of had to do that. They had to kind of represent a whole genre. Cagney kind of does gangsters.
Well, that one's horror and
John
sci-fi.
Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double.
Yeah.
So in that way, not only is it an amazing movie and one of my favorite films of all time, top 5, top 3 maybe, it is the part of the whole ride. When I think of like the structure of the ride, you have this sort of big moment. Someone's taken over your thing, and like now things are a little different, and then like you're starting to get settled back in just a hair with that being okay. Like, all right, this is the new guy, and then you go into this dark area, and like how it sort of kind of transitions, and it gets real kind of quiet. It gets quiet for just a second before it really like picks up and goes crazy. At least my memory of it was that. Like, I know it didn't do that, but there was just this kind of lull. And then like, I'll be the first to be like, hey, Ellen Ripley, you know, I said Ellen Ripley because Ellen's the worst animatronic ever at Disney, but that, that Ripley animatronic is not much better. It's not a great animatronic, to say the least. That said, the aliens are really cool. The alien, I mean, there's never been an attraction that has an animatronic xenomorph. It's the only one. I mean, I'm shocked to say that even today. Yeah, I really wish.
Yeah. But you know what this scene was supposed to be originally? It was supposed to be 2 genres, but 2 other genres. Still going to be horror, but it was going to be horror comedy. This one was going to be this was Ghostbusters.
That's right.
And then Universal got the rights instead out from under them.
So for me, Alien is just, it does a really good job of being the opposite of the entire rest of the ride. It goes to a different direction tonally. Scares kids. That's always a plus. And you know what? To be honest, like I was in my late 20s, early 30s when I wrote it last. And even then I was kind of like, bleh. Like I know where they're coming. And I'm like, because the atmosphere is done so well. And I don't know why, but it always sort of, I did this a little bit. Just sunk into the chair just a hair when I got to that scene.
Yeah, I was going to say as the youngest person here, I remember being really scared of that scene as a kid and just like, I'm not going to look at where it is. And then, and then as I got older, I rode the ride every time I went and learned where the alien was and stuff. It was like, I became more comfortable with it and then I appreciated it more.
Were you even alive for the Great Movie Ride? Are we sure?
Alien's gonna pop up there.
and I think that's the thing about that ride is it is, or that section of the ride, you have not a very good animatronic. Those two xenomorphs don't really move that much.
They didn't
but they
need
really
to, though. I know at the end.
They did need to.
At the end, they kind of sat there and you saw them because you could see them in the holes. Originally, you couldn't. He wasn't stuck, and the one on the side wasn't stuck like halfway out the wall. That used to sit back in there. And so with the strobe and the fog, it didn't matter.
Yeah, but at the same time, even when it was like that, the atmosphere of that section of the ride was so impactful and sort of strobe-y and amazing that it still kind of made them creepy. So let me put it like this. Everest could learn a thing about how to use strobe lights from this alien scene. Put it like that.
Is it me, or would it always get weirdly hot and muggy in that scene? It would get warm, right?
I think that was on purpose.
Yeah,
I think so.
I was making sure. It's like an
I will say,
memory.
Yeah.
Although that's not my favorite scene, it was it might have been my favorite room to walk through on our when we walked through the entire ride. It was really.
It was cool. That was a cool thing.
I mean, what do you want?
That was a cool thing. I talk about it all the time. That was amazing.
You guys can watch it. We filmed. There's 30 minutes of it on YouTube. I mean, you can do the walkthrough with us. And
it's not the same.
It's not.
That room.
At least it exists.
I want to go back in time and buy that ticket during my lunch break.
I did it 3 times.
Not have life regret.
Wow. So jealous.
You really feel the horror walking through that room, though. I mean, like Nathan says. I mean, the way they set the atmosphere in that particular room was just.
Well, I believe they slowed down the car in there too, than in the other rooms. I mean, it's already a pretty slow-moving vehicle, but.
Yeah, no, but there's something cool. It was cool, and again, the video we have the full animatronic loops. You could watch each one start to finish, and it's fun to just see the whole scene play. It's really cool. All of them, the same with the alien, to watch the full thing. They're all cool.
I think the car slowed down a little bit too to make sure the car in front of you had time to do the temple scene.
There was variable speed.
So it depends on which one you were in.
In a lot of scenes, yeah. I mean, it's an amazing ride system. You don't really hear people talk about it for a movie ride because it had been done already for energy, but it's a neat ride system for sure.
Yeah.
Nick.
So I was a little confused at first because I thought we were doing the Great Muppet movie ride best moments. So I had that all prepared. So
I want to hear that. What was your pick for that?
Me too.
So for this, I want to say that the reason I picked this one is really it was kind of the most and least memorable scene, and I'll explain kind of why. It was I very much related to the plant in the Indiana Jones spectacular, the stunt spectacular, because I would always forget that there's a twist. So I would always forget. So I'm picking the Anubis room, and I would always forget that the original.
It's fitting because that's how you died tonight.
Right. I would always forget that your original tour guide comes back, and same like I would always forget there's a plant in the audience at the stunt show. Yeah. Like it always got me. So
Nick's been forgetful since he was a child. Now we know.
Yes,
it's the thing he's always lived with.
Memory is awful. So I mean, eventually I caught on, but it took a while. So no, but like that's why it was like so. If you don't know, it's such a fun twist. It's another twist because you think you already kind of went through the twist, and then you go through another twist, and it's usually acted out pretty well for the most part, and especially when it is acted out really well, you get it's a triumphant return, and it's that part of the movie where the hero prevails and the hero returns. And so, like you're all saying. So like everybody's saying, you're brought into the movie and you're made part of the movie. This is that you really are brought through an entire real story, real movie plot line almost throughout the entire ride, and that's the culmination of it. And
was it
just
supposed
the
to be
effects.
The culmination of it, though? You know that, right?
I don't think I do.
You did the great movie right Back to the Future. Well, he doesn't remember. If you want to know how the story was actually supposed to end, there was supposed to be the return of the cowboy and the gangster. If you watch I'm not going to go on 10 minutes about it now. We have the great movie right Back to the Future here on the YouTube channel, which goes through all of that. It's really cool.
All right, well, that's it. Yeah.
All right.
That's my
You
scene.
guys made this easy for me. I thought you were going to pick everything I would have wanted, and then I got the list, and I was like, oh, they didn't pick the big one. No one picked The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
No.
The Wizard of Oz is possibly the most famous movie of all time.
It's not even a good movie.
What was that?
What? No.
What'd you say?
It's not even a good movie.
Shame on you, Nick.
You say it's not
Shame
good?
on you, Nick.
What?
What? Who?
Wow.
When I was a kid,
We're not friends anymore.
and the weird thing for me is because I didn't have a point in my childhood where we weren't going. And so I don't ever know what came first. I don't know, like Wizard of Oz, I don't know if I saw it first or went on the ride first. I don't know. But I know as a kid, I wore out that VHS. I watched The Wizard of Oz all the time. Loved it. And so that scene, and you're you're there in Munchkin Land, and it's beautiful, and there's the big flowers, and there's animatronics everywhere, and there's a big song, and you're in the most famous movie of all time. It's never been done before. No theme park had ever done The Wizard of Oz, and it's like this culmination everyone wanted to do. Walt Disney wanted to do in the 50s, and how many other theme parks tried to get the rights over the years, and Disney finally got the rights. And they do this big scene, and it's the finale scene of the great movie ride. And not only that, and there's a celebration, but then the Munchkins duck behind the doors and in the windows, and this witch comes out, and people in the car, like while she's out, are like, is that an actress? I don't know. Is it a robot? I don't know. Because it was the first of the A100 figures, and it just...
Yeah.
People were stunned. It had this realistic movement, and it looked like the witch had actually, in the earlier years when the smoke effect fully worked, you didn't see her come up from the hole in the ground,
I mean, the smoke effect didn't work in the movie either. So.
I also liked, that's true. I also liked that maintenance got so bad in later years that they'd let the figure rot for a while, so the broom would become a mop from all the steam. So the broom would start as this solid thing, and then over the years, you just see it like start to wilt, and then she just has a mop every couple of years. But like the Wicked Witch shows up and has this whole conversation with the guide, and then she's gone. It's like, what are we gonna do? And it's follow the yellow brick road, and it's just so cute. And then it leads into, I think, one of the most beautifully staged little scenes they've ever done in any attraction. I think the whole gang looking at the Emerald City, and the lights come on and the city glistens, and it's everything you wanted. You follow the yellow brick road, and there's the Tin Man and Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion and Toto and everybody, Scarecrow, and they're all just looking at the Emerald City, and she does that thing where she looks towards them and she looks towards the city And it's just this it's the perfect thing to lead into the montage. Like, that's the right final scene, and it's magical, and it's a movie everyone knows, and mostly, except for the deviants in this conversation, all love. It's just it was always a magical scene, and I think about the one I got the most emotional with on the last ride. It was definitely Wizard of Oz. Like, it's... I don't know, just seeing that Emerald City.
It would have been my second choice.
Yeah,
I like the second part better too than the big one. I like the Emerald City one. That was just, I thought that little scene was just, it was absolutely beautiful, and it was like glittery, and you're just, that's kind of like the end of your journey. It feels very,
like
very hopeful. So I actually like that
scene.
more. Yeah.
Sad now.
You're sad now? Welcome to my everyday.
Everyone knows the Fantasia scene was supposed to be the tornado, right?
Yeah, Mickey was supposed to be the Twister, and then MGM started fighting with them as they were finishing the scene.
So it was like, just put Mickey in there, it's fine.
Because it's really the only thing missing, because you think about the way they laid out that whole sequence, it's like, how do we get like these other movies we can pick out quintessential scenes. But like Wizard of Oz, there's a lot of things that mean something to people. So it's like, we got to have the Twister, the house fell on her, we have Ding Dong, the witch is dead, the witch will actually appear, then we'll have Follow the Yellow Brick Road, and then we'll have the whole gang looking at the Emerald City. You cover all the bases there. I think it's really thoughtfully done. It was really cute. It's one of those scenes that stays with you, I think, the rest of your life.
And it's really the only scene where, like, you are filling in for an actual character in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, you are Dorothy and her friends.
Yeah.
For that scene.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the thing they tried to do throughout the ride, was make it feel like you're in the middle of the movie, like you're in the middle of the gunfight, or you're in the middle of the bank robbery. Yeah.
But like, you're not
an alien.
You're still an observer.
You weren't Ripley in Alien.
Like, I mean, the alien lunges at you.
Yeah, it says
but
you're
she's
part
there.
of the crew, right?
Yeah. Somewhere in the ship.
Well, no, the crew's gone.
One by one, the crew has vanished.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
it does say you are aboard the spaceship.
You're aboard the spaceship.
Yeah. So that is an interesting fact, that the Witch Munchkin Land scene, you are taking the place of a character opposed to
of a known
sort of watching from the side,
basically.
Yeah, we
like the interaction is still with your host, but
we crushed the Witch of the East with our trackless vehicle. Just landed right on her.
Yeah.
And not into a projection-based jungle.
That's the roller coaster version of Great Movie Ride, where you like ram into her and then keep going. Just look behind you, there's a dead body on the ground.
I'd love that.
On a small side note, but I was curious if Tom had ever got to experience it. Did you get to go to the MGM Grand in '94 when Wizard of Oz was the theme in Vegas? It was a huge thing. It was pretty.
Weren't there sections of the hotel were themed to different MGM movies, right? Wasn't that the gimmick?
I think
there was
so.
a bar
the main
that was
one, though,
themed
the middle.
I'm gonna blank on it now, but they were all different MGM.
Yeah, the middle was the entire green. I mean, it was Emerald City. It was really, it was something.
Yeah, I've heard good things. Sad I never got to see it. Okay, so we have our 7 scenes, and now we have to do the hard thing, and we have to rank them. This is gonna get heated. So the 7 scenes we have are Alien, the Anubis, the closing montage, Casablanca, Western Gangster, and the Wizard of Oz. What do we think? Who's going to be brave enough to volunteer number
Casablanca.
7?
Tom, you
I
won.
will.
Casablanca.
No, I will.
Ending
Easy.
scene.
You're not getting Casablanca over my dead body.
No. I think it's Anubis. Anubis is not a movie.
Get out
It's a
of here.
theme.
No.
It's not a movie.
I'm with
one,
Nathan.
though.
I mean,
I love it.
Gangster and Cowboy is
Some like
not
dumb
a movie, it's
vaudevillian
a
scene
theme.
is better than like a classic film. Get out of here, no.
I like the ending scene because it has all of the rest of them, and that's where it leaves you,
I'm not
and
putting the
leaves you with
montage
that
at number
feeling.
7.
There are a ton.
You're
of
not?
I think it's got to be Anubis. It's
I'm
the
with
least.
Nathan.
It's
Is
the
anyone else
most
gonna
generic.
agree?
What are we talking? Hold on.
No.
Only 2
No,
of you
no
have
one
seen
wants
Anubis.
to. Okay. Majority rules. It's not my decision.
May I explain my reasoning real quick?
Yeah, Nathan.
Sure.
Where we just jumped.
So my reasoning for this is fairly simple. Anubis is the only scene without either it being based on an actual movie or having an animatronic representing a genre in it. It is purely a staged area for the transition of the actors. And it's a great scene. It's integral, but it's not.
These are all great scenes.
Necessary.
Yeah.
You could pass that, and you wouldn't. It is a generalized area in theory.
But it is to me it's an extension of the Indiana Jones, because you're raiding a tomb and you're going through Indiana Jones, and when you come through there, so it's kind of like the amalgam of the Western scene. To me, is that when you're coming through there, you're still part of that whole temple genre of, as you're going through. And when you get to that part, I do think it's integral. Like as a kid, I remember that being my favorite scene. I remember like the dialogue, "Hey guys, remember me?" That just goes to show you anything can happen in the movies. Now let's get out of here. I mean, and it was all about the cast member and how well they did it. And, I always watched the scene when they reached up and the smoke happened and the door turned, and the genius of the cowboy hat and the gangster hat. It's the same thing on the skeleton. I mean, I think that one is an integral piece. I don't think you put that number 7. And as much as I love the finale of the movies,
no, I'm fine with that.
I mean, it's hard, but I think as much as the analogy of the movies at the end, the movies don't have the animatronic. To your point, there are no animatronics in that. It's movie clips.
There's no scene. There's no nothing.
Changed. It is a good montage, and then they changed
to
it.
successfully cut together a montage of the greatest movies ever made.
But to your point, so it's got to be number 7. I think that to me would be number 7 over the Anubis scene, because it is to me a linchpin of the rest of that.
Well, when I think it says number 7, and to the point about that it's the cast members doing it, and then if the cast member does not do it well, it's not as good of a scene. It can be hit or miss if they are not good actors.
Like our staff.
Montage is always successful.
Yeah.
I misspoke earlier. I thought for some reason my brain went, "Oh, what's number 1?" And my brain went, "Oh yeah, movie montage." But we're me and Jessica made the same mental mistake. But yeah.
So what
I don't think movie montage should be number 7.
I'll take either Anubis or
I'm
montage.
fine with Anubis at 7. Yeah.
Wait. So who's for Anubis at 7?
What if I said I love Wizard of Oz? Will Jess not vote for Anubis?
Oh, I forgot that you hate Wizard of Oz.
There's
Definitely
4
Anubis,
for
then.
Anubis being number 7.
Who hates
so
Wizard of Oz?
Anubis.
Oh, Nick, I'm with him. I'm not a huge fan of the scene in the ride.
All right. So what's number 6 then?
If you were talking about the movie montage,
it's kind of funny. Can I just say this?
Wouldn't it be the next?
Sorry. My pen actually just ran out of ink now that Anubis, we
Here you go, Nick!
Tom, can I have a pen, please?
No, the smoke machine's off.
We
went through
Rob
a
makes
whole
a good
bottle.
point. We were already talking about the finale.
Yeah, but does everyone want the
montage?
finale at 6? Is that an agreement?
The montage?
Casablanca.
No.
I can watch. Here's the thing.
I say Cowboys.
Here's the thing. You can watch the montage now and get almost the exact experience. Like it is, and that's why it's great. But it's also not essential for being in the ride to experience and enjoy that spot.
Like
everything else is you had to be there, right?
It's a great montage. It has some of the even better movies that might have been featured in the ride. Like, I would have loved to see it Gilda scene with Rita Hayworth and stuff. But
I talked about getting emotional with the Wizard of Oz scene when they play Gone with the Wind and there's the montage to Gone with the Wind. That's another moment. I think
I tear up every time.
It does what it does so well.
I don't have.
Someone said Western, and I think because so few people saw it, that I kind of agree.
Yeah. That's why I said the
was
Western
one
one.
Of those spaced out.
Wait, you're throwing the Western one under the bus?
She said it first.
I'm sorry, Rob.
She's even dressed as a cowboy.
I mean, Jill in the chat. Jill Diffendahl, she said, shouldn't Gangster and Bandit be 6 and 7 since you would ride the ride without one of them every time?
I'm fine with that.
It's not about.
Now, see, I think though that again, the experience of being in the movie, those are the scenes where the car gets taken over and you are part of that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about the alien scene, you are riding through that, and the alien jumps out at you a little bit, but this is one where you're actually part of the action. You don't, if you've never ridden it before, you don't know what's happening. They're actually taking over your car. There's an animatronic. They're interacting with them. I love the fire effect. And again, as a kid, when I was going to this park and Universal, there was so much fire. Yeah. Like back in the day, there was so much fire. And it's just like when they would light it up, it's like, there it is again, more fire. And you just would feel it. And then, I mean, we're all Disney nerds and we all love the smell of things. That smell of the flames afterwards. I mean, that was top-notch stuff. Like, let's get that.
Should 6 be candle. Alien?
No way.
No.
It's so
I hated fire.
Confused.
I would put Casablanca at 6 because it's a beautiful scene, but it's not an immersive scene the way that like the rest of
the best movies.
Yeah, I agree with Shannon.
Alien,
but we're not ranking the movies, we're ranking the scene.
Yeah.
The quality of the movie doesn't matter there.
All right, I'm going to ask. It sounds like there's 3 possibilities here. Raise your hand when it's the one you want at number 6. Alien.
No, not raise my hand.
Me and Rob, okay.
Oh boy.
Western. What was the other one? Casablanca.
Casablanca.
Jessica, seriously, come on.
Western.
Western.
Again. I'm sorry, Rob.
Don't talk to me or my Gordo ever again.
You're wrong.
All right, so Western is 6. So for number 5,
Gangster.
But we weren't even discussing Gangster for 6.
No, so still left is Alien,
It's
Oz, closing montage, Casablanca, and Gangster. What do people want at 5?
I want montage at 5.
I'm gonna say Casablanca.
Casablanca.
Wow, you guys are
How
all
many
like a bunch of
Casablancas
backstabbers,
are there?
honestly.
There's 3 Casablancas. End montage?
Not enough.
What are my options?
Montage? I'll go montage.
Oh, well, you're the only one.
One for montage.
Alien?
What are?
I would go Alien because
He's
we were
listing the
talking about putting it down there.
What about Western?
Western's
We
gone.
did
That was
Western.
6.
I think the equivalency is Gangster.
You were the one that sold out Western.
Isn't the equivalency Gangster?
So is Casablanca 5? How many Casablancas were there?
Casablanca.
There wasn't enough. There was 3.
Yeah, but not, everyone's split between 3 things, so a 3 win.
We'll make it 2.
It was 3 for 6 too.
What is the other one that people want gone now?
I think it's montage or Gangster, or if you want to put in Casablanca, you can. But I don't
3
agree
people are
with that
saying
at all.
Casablanca. It's definitely in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's
Gangster-
with you with
Let me ask
montage.
again. Closing montage is number 5. No one. Jessica. It's 1.
Didn't
Yeah,
just
I'm fine with that.
Nathan wanted it. He didn't even raise
2.
his hand.
Gangster. How many? No one. And
I said
closing
montage. I want montage over Gangster.
Oh no, we did
Montage
that.
is me.
Casablanca. There's 3 for Casablanca. What was the one with 2? The montage? Casablanca or montage? Raise your hand for Casablanca. Montage.
Don't talk to me.
I'll jump in for montage if those are the only 2.
I'm the
You're the
deciding
vote
vote.
then.
Oh.
Don't DM me.
I'm putting
the
Casablanca at
montage.
5.
No.
Good answer. Good answer.
Number 4 is the
I'm leaving.
montage.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, the remaining are Alien, I can't believe Alien's at number 3, but all right. Alien,
That's
Gangster, and Oz. I'm voting Alien for 3.
Alien.
Yeah.
Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'cause
that's
I mean,
agreed.
One of these scenes, Gangster or Western, has to be near the top. So
Western
definitely
is
Alien.
6. It's gone.
No, I just said one of them has to be. I know it's
Yeah.
gone. It
Yeah,
hurts
but
my
yeah,
heart. I just feel like
Gangster's
So
the
it's
more
between
iconic
Gangster
one.
and Oz.
I mean, I'd put Oz at number 1.
I like
put
Gangster
Oz
more than
at
I like
2.
Oz.
Yeah, same. I'd go
So
Oz
hold on.
too.
I watched a lot.
How many people want
torn.
number one to be Oz?
No.
Oh
Wow, Gangster?
Nice.
How many people
Yeah,
want
I really
Gangster
like
to win?
Gangster.
You guys walked into
That's
the
a choice.
Gangster.
Over Oz? Yeah.
Wow, that's it. All right.
Jess didn't vote.
I-
It's very sad.
I didn't
Oh
even
yeah,
know.
Jess didn't vote.
Casablanca can't win. It's on one side of the wall.
It's true.
I love it, but it's on one side.
There's literally, I mean, we were talking about the scrim, but there's literally a scrim between you and the scene.
You'll always have
There's a
Paris.
separation that nothing
That adds
else
effect.
has.
That's important.
All right, so the countdown always have Paris. Number 7 was the Anubis scene. Number 6, the Western. Number 5, Casablanca. Number 4, the finale montage. Number 3, Alien. Oh, that happened. Number 2, Oz. And number 1, the number 1 scene of the great movie ride, the Gangster scene.
The
Chat is saying Oz, so.
I disagree. But it's what happened. What happened happened. I can't change it.